Mr. Banks, man, I appreciate you for jumping on this call right now, man. It's been amazing to watch you. I mean, I've been watching you for years, but especially this last journey, this last period of the journey, to see you transform your health, man, and see you make certain changes in your life, with your nutrition and your physical activity and your exercise and your consistency and all of these wonderful things, man. So I just wanted to get you on, share your journey, share your story. Hopefully, it can help inspire, some other individuals, around the globe to make similar changes as yourself, man. Is that cool?
Well, thank you, Joe. And for those who may or may not know, I originally was born in Southern California. And
Hmm.
Southern California, growing up there, I could walk to the beach. I played myself in the beach and surfing my life and all that kind of stuff. But what was really interesting is that, California is kind of a healthy state. There's a lot more healthy things, a lot of stuff you can just grab things off of trees and things of that nature. When I moved to New York, holy cow, I found out that you can eat out everywhere all the time. And I literally went from like a large size to a double and triple X person because I just loved it. There's no better place to have good food, at least eating wise, is New York City. And
Yeah.
nothing better. And as I got more and more and more heavy, even though I was still young enough to play ball and do a lot of things, I was, basically putting a lot of weight on me because I wasn't eating correctly. And my ability to be sort of like a competitive person in sports, I always looked at that as, oh, I'll figure it out that way. And then as I get older, you're being at an athlete, you obviously starting to be find younger people behind you, starting to grab your back and hitting you in your knees, and you got your ankles cranking, and you go, wait a minute, I can't play like this anymore. And next thing I knew, I was like super heavy.
Yeah.
And I met Joe. Joe was a kid. I was a middle kid, and I was just like, dude, I need some help. And
Yeah.
and one of the things that he immediately thought was, let's get you on a sort of a real good way of getting this done.
Yeah.
And actually everything he asked me to do, I was doing. But one of the things I didn't do was the food issue. I still was hanging on the same kind of food, a lot of alcohol. I don't smoke or anything like that, but definitely between having a drink every night with something, food, never creating it myself. I would go to a restaurant or some fast food. All that stuff was sort of negative to all the positive that was happening from the strength. When we first out, some of the things that I loved doing at the very beginning with Joe is, which he doesn't do with me anymore, but we used to put on the gloves and do some boxing and stuff like that. And it was just like,
Right.
really, I loved going, I loved to seeing him, and we would do all these things, a lot of fun,
Yeah.
but I wasn't doing my part. My part was more where I was getting it away from where I was doing was, again, it's about food. And whenever I left the gym, I didn't do anything more after that. It wasn't like any extra stuff that I was like, okay, now that I can go home and do a few sit-ups or anything like that. Nah, I did my part. And I think I
Right.
was only doing about 3 times a week. So it was like it wasn't getting where I wanted to see from a looking perspective. Inside, I was probably getting a little better, but
Yeah.
outside, I felt like, oh, I'm getting bigger and bigger. And I think probably within the first, I don't know, year or whatever, the first few months that we know, we did our way out.
Yeah.
And I think I hate to say it, but Joe and I both know I was about 299 pounds. That means 300 pounds.
Yeah.
So that was a startling thing. And I'll stop there, Joe. So maybe you want to ask a question or make a comment to the very first beginnings that we had.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I want to focus more on recently. So recently, in the past year or so, what are some of the biggest changes you would say that you've noticed?
There's 5 things that happened. 5 things. Everybody write whatever. Everybody get a pen and a pencil and a piece of paper, or get your phone out, get your computer out. I'm going to give you the 5 things that are going to save your doggone life. All right. Number one, I was bummed out for a while, but one of the things that Joe gave me that I didn't really thought about it much, but he gave me something which was a way to eat better, and these different things that I could eat on various days and various times. It was a really good way for me to sort of think differently about food. And so that was number one. And even with that, I decreased the amount of working off I was. And I just sort of like, I'm tired of working out. I was like burnt out. And so I was like, you know what? I'm not going to work out, but I'm going to try the menu that this man has given me. And it was starting to make me feel better. I was like, okay, just from a food perspective, I wasn't really working out. I wasn't running. I wasn't doing anything. But at least from a eating perspective, I felt a little bit healthier. I was still very heavy, 280, 285. I was still rolling hardcore with that. Number two, oh, this is a big one. The big one is I ended up getting two new dogs. And I'm talking about, uh, I mean, like new dogs, right? These were puppies. And it turns out I was a guy that was not a big walker. Joe always talked about, you know, you should walk, you should walk, you should walk. It's just the same as running and all this other stuff. And I never was into, I thought walking was dumb. Like there is no real, what's the point of walking? You're going nowhere for no reason.
Right.
But when I got these dogs, it forced me to walk these dogs every day. What? 3 times a day. What?
Increase that
Two
daily
dogs.
activity level.
What? 3 miles a day, every day to this day. Yeah. And now they are over a year and a half now. So for a year and a half, so when I got a little bit, some sense in my mind, I started feeling how my weight was coming down walking with the dogs. And I started even getting more intense, taking those dogs up in the hills and moving around and all this stuff. It was rough because I was still 260, 270 now, right? So I was something coming down, but I was like, wow. So number three, and by the way, the dogs are continuing bringing me down. But number three, as I'm walking these dogs, I'm like, wow, I am losing some weight, but you know what? I want to eat even better. So even though I had that menu of things that Joe had shared with me, I wanted to go even further. And I really started to get really clear that I needed to make my own food. I actually put some food in my yard, but I also buy food in various stores and I cook my own food. I rarely ever go out to a restaurant. That's something I just even though I love a restaurant, don't get me wrong, but I do not eat at restaurants for the most part. I do every now and then, but certainly I would advocate for anyone, don't eat every day to a restaurant, as fun as it is.
Yeah.
And then number four, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And convenient.
Yes, it's way, yeah. And I got to tell you though, when you actually cook your own food and eat your own food, I can guarantee you one is it's joyful to do it.
Yeah.
And it's fun to share it. And it's better for your life. That's what really hit me on that. Is like, and I love to cook now. I love to cook. I'm an excellent cook, as a matter of fact. And as a result, you can control your body as a result. The food has a lot of power in your body. So that has become quite important to me. Number four, again, so we now started getting into what I would say is the muscle again. So Joe came back, I came back, we started back again. He looked at me for the first time and said, "What the hell happened to you?" And I was like, I told him those three things right away, and I need this fourth one happening, which is working out. And it turns out as we started getting that going again, we brought ourselves down to be under 200 pounds. And now I'm 189, 188. And I'm not looking to go much lower than that. But the reality is that working in the gym now, where Joe is my trailer, you know, I'm talking about we are absolutely going for it. You know, he challenges me, he's pushing me. He always did, but even more so because he can see the difference that's been happening.
You know, I want to add, so you know, from that period, when we started again in December, you were 223. So from then, since we kicked it back up, you and I doing more strength training, building more muscle, went from 223 to 187. That was the lowest we had a couple days ago.
It's a big time game changer.
Yeah.
And a lot of it for me, interestingly enough, it wasn't that many different than what we were doing in the kind of working we were doing, but to see yourself is
Yeah.
so much better. It
Yeah.
makes you want to do it, and he knows when I come into that gym and there's other people, I make sure they see me doing it. So I don't want them to you got I'm like, my push-ups look good, my all that crap that he has me doing, I make it look perfect. So everybody gets motivated. I want to be that person to help motivate. I got still a long way to go. Don't get anyone
Right.
to
Right. Right.
don't understand what I'm saying. I am still, in progress, but I feel so much better because it turns out, like I was saying at the very beginning, if everybody didn't see this, if you're heavy, you still have muscle underneath that skin. It's just a matter of getting some of that weight out so you can actually see it again. That weight that, when you were a teenager or when you were younger and you can pull your arm out and go, damn, man, I can see a muscle. You still have that. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of getting some weight off. And that's what keeps me going. Can I talk about the fifth thing?
Go ahead. Knock it out, brother.
All right, the last thing, and then we can go back to the actual process you want to talk about. But my fifth thing, I just want everybody to share this last piece. So you guys, hopefully everybody got the four things. If you don't have the four things, and I bet you can't even tell the four things. But if you have the four things, I said I will tell you again. But first, I'm going to tell you what the fifth thing, right? So the number five thing that became really important for me was to extend the amount of exercise I was doing. A lot of my exercise, even back in the day, having a trainer, having a gym, doing these weights, good. I'm done. All right. I have nothing else to have to do. I
I'm out of
do my
here.
part.
Right.
But it turns out that you got to do more. Even though I have the walking of the dogs and all that kind of stuff, and being in the gym, the next thing I did was, wow, maybe I can swim. And the swimming does something important, different than just, you know,
Yeah.
the weights. It
Yeah.
helps me breathe better. I breathe better. I
Yeah.
feel better. My diaphragm, all that stuff is coming out beautifully. So I added swimming, and in addition to that, I'm slowly getting back on my bicycle because that was the beginning of a lot of problems I had. I had a bad accident that didn't get me but I'm getting back on the bike now. So now you're not putting so much pressure on different parts of your body. And these are the things that I think will give you some joy. Whatever things you like, you should do. And those things should be made into a way to help your body. And that's where I'm looking at it. Even I play golf, all right, because I don't play basketball anymore, so I play golf. Yeah. But it is what it is. I play golf, but it's a game where you're still swinging your body, you're moving it, you're really doing some interesting things. So I find just ways that I'm happy to do things that also can make an impact on me.
Yes. I love it. I love those top five, man. Meal planning, right? Having a proper nutritional guide, walking with them dogs that increases your daily activity. A lot of people don't understand. Fat burn is mostly going to occur in your daily activity. People do not give that enough attention, right? Learning to cook your own food, right? So it's one thing to get the meal plan, but then to take it to the next level, right? Of actually implementing your own foods. And I think you said it very well. Like, not only are you cooking your own foods because it's nutritious, but it's also rewarding. You're feeding yourself
Absolutely.
and others healthy medicine. You're giving them medicine. That's something that's good for them, right? I think that's a huge thing. Number four, strength training, right? Getting in the gym, moving some resistance, helping to build, all that connective tissue in the body, and then finding something the best way I want to put it, right? Finding, I want to say a sport, right? But like finding something that brings out your athleticism in a cardiovascular manner with the swimming, right? Some, it could be
Absolutely.
running, it could be riding, it could be whatever. But I love that you found something to do, not so I can go and burn extra calories, but I love doing this and it's helping me breathe better. And a byproduct of it is I'm going to burn some extra calories, right?
And
Like
for
you're,
those who may not be a swimmer or anything like that, find something, because the thing with me, of course, I grew up swimming, so swimming's my thing.
yeah,
But one of the cool thing about swimming, it's not impact. right? I'm not having to like
Yeah.
do some of the things you do in a gym. You're not doing that. Your body is the only thing
Yeah.
that's moving. It's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing. So find something like that. It could be bicycle, it could be, walking, it could be any of these things that you can do yourself. I
Mhm.
know that's what I'm doing and still working on the other parts that make sure you got to keep muscle going. That's why you got to work in the gym with Joe.
Yeah. One thing, I want to add too, that I think was a big part of your success also is that I believe it was primarily your shoulder, right? We had some limits of range of motion with the shoulder. So along with strength training, we just didn't go in and just go straight try to knock out weights. We first had to restore balance and functioning of the shoulder so that we could do some of these more intense exercises. I think that's another big piece of the puzzle because if we don't address those certain issues, then it's really hard to build muscle on an imbalanced joint, right?
Well, I think this is an important point you're making, and for those who get the chance to see this and listen carefully. So what Joe is saying is that is very important is that even though you might have some issues, some challenges, you feel, pain and all these type of things, there's always a way for it to be addressed. And that's one of the things that I think Joe has a real expertise on that. He thinks about your body, he thinks about where your muscles are, he thinks about what you can do, and he's not going to do anything that's going to hurt you or kill you or anything like that. He's going
Yeah,
to put something together that gives you the kind of exercise that's going to work for you. And I found that to be very interesting, because you would think naturally that there's some big thing you got to do or something that's got to like really be heavy in order to help you get this together. The answer
right.
was no for me. I mean,
Yeah.
as simple as this, if you don't do anything, do this right now at home right now. Put your arm up and just start banging this thing like a clock. All right, you just knock that kind of nonsense and your shoulder be right back together. So you just start clocking that thing, clocking it like 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, back up. You might look like a fool, but I'm telling you, it is a great thing. It's not heavy,
Yo,
it's not hard. It's something
right,
that will help your shoulders. If you've ever had an issue in that area of your body, it is an amazing thing. That's just a small example of what this means.
right. I love that. I love that. So I want to go back in time. Let's go back. I want you to think maybe like 2 years ago, right before this whole journey started, right? A couple years ago, what would you say, right? Um, what were you doing in the past, a couple years ago and beyond, to try and get these results, but they weren't happening? Like, what would you say? What were you trying to do back then compared to now, a couple years ago?
Well, every heavy man has the same goal every time, which is we don't want to be big. I mean, unless we're getting an NFL contract. But
Right,
otherwise, we're all trying to lose some of the weight. There's no question about it. I mean, maybe some people don't care, but for the most of the people I talk to, um, we'll go to people like you, et cetera, to figure out how to do this. But I think the challenge is that we got to have much more of a comprehensive way of thinking. See, a lot of anything that comes to this kind of work, it's more in the mind than it is in the body. It turns out you've got to start thinking a little bit differently about stuff. That's what I had to do. And I'm not saying everybody has to do exactly what I'm saying, but based on what you're saying, back in the day, a few years ago, when we were trying to do this stuff, my mind was not focused on anything really. I was not thinking about food. I wasn't thinking about, biking. I wasn't thinking about swimming. I wasn't thinking about anything except thinking, oh, as long as I come here, I do some weights, I'm going to drop down to 188 pounds. Never happened. But
right.
the muscle was there. I felt the
The
muscles.
muscles, yeah,
I
you
was
felt the
stronger.
strength.
I could still,
Yeah,
knock somebody out. But at the end of
right,
the day, it wasn't getting my body right, right? So, and that was more of a mindset. I needed to create a new mindset. And that's what I did when I got those dogs. That changed my mindset. It allowed me to start walking them dogs. It made me think about food. It made me think about alcohol. It made all these things that really has those ability to put weight on you.
yeah,
When you're working in a gym, you're not putting weight on you. I mean, you're putting on muscle on you, and muscle
yeah,
does
yeah.
all types of different things for you. But at the end of the day, if you don't have your mindset, your body doesn't work.
Nice. So the biggest shift is that change of the mindset.
That's exactly right. And I think, like I said,
Nice.
the meal plan, I looked at it for many, many weeks before I started. I just kept looking at it and I was like, oh man, it looks intense. I don't know, and whatever. But that was a mindset. It's
Right.
no big deal. You go and do it, and I went on and basically kept going, but also adding things and taking some things
Yeah.
away and all that kind of stuff. But it had to become a mindset. And so, if
Yeah.
anyone who wants to sort of try to get in there, that's what I would suggest: is don't look at that as just food or anything like that. Think it in your mind on how you can change your life. And part of
Nice.
that is being healthy, eat the right things.
Nice. Nice. So, so what would you say is the biggest thing that helped you on the journey? Would it be, my moral support? Would it be going to the gym and seeing other people, working out? Would it be more of the nutrition or the exercise information? What would be what would you say in your own words, right? The biggest thing that
If
has helped.
I mean, all of it works, right? All of it works together. There's not one thing I could have done to where I am right now. I had to have
Right.
everything's combined.
Yeah.
Probably the most important of all was my intake, the food, the menu that you gave, the menu I started my own. That was very critical. How much do I do it? Back in the day, I could knock down 2, 3 burgers at a barbecue time or whatever they came. Yeah, you
Right.
got to stop that. You got to like really measure some of that, and I think that was the mental part of what this all had to do. Is like, even those who are listening and getting on this, even if you do not like eat what I do or eat like Joe does or eat like anybody else do, just sort of like measure how much food you're making because that's also a big deal.
Nice.
I was straight up overeating. So I do think that had a lot to do with everything because the food doesn't have anything with Joe. See, that's the problem. It doesn't has anything to do with the trainer. That has to be about you. For me,
Yeah.
it had to be about me. So I had to get myself together in order to make whatever you and I do to work together. You and your trainer did work. You can't have your
Got it.
trainer come in and make your breakfast and lunch and dinner. You know
Right.
what I mean? So
I
you
can
got to
tell
get
you
that
what to
together.
eat, but I can't force it in your mouth.
You can't force it.
Yeah.
When we're in the gym, you're right there. You make me do stuff. That's great. But if I go home and I'm not, doing anything except eating a burger and a hot dog and a bunch of French fries, next thing you know, I got a shake coming down my neck, and the whole thing is not working.
Right.
And I'm not saying everybody should be like not doing anything. I'm just saying just be more that's more on us people who have, gotten big like that. It's our job with some support, but certainly it's our job to be more healthy from the food that we eat. Food is like medicine. Food is
It
just
is
like
medicine.
medicine.
It is medicine.
Joe knows this kind of stuff better than anybody. And I had to really grasp that. That
Nice.
what you eat, there's an old saying. Everybody listen to this saying. Listen to this saying, all right? I don't think I've ever even said this to Joe. I'm gonna tell you an old saying.
Mhm.
When you're born, you look like your parents. When you die, you look like your decisions. So
Mm.
so that's what I think about that. I'm like, I had to make some new
Thanks, getting
decisions.
deep.
I wasn't looking right for a minute. I said, let me get back to where I'm supposed to look. So yeah, don't take that serious. You make your own decisions. Be careful with those.
Nice, man. Nice, man. Last question, brother. If we was to take right this moment right now, what would you say to yourself 2 years ago? What advice would you give yourself?
2 years ago,
Yeah.
about what I'm talking about today,
Yeah.
I would have tried to jumped on it right away, even though I can't say that's 100%. I think 2 years ago, I was at a point where I was like, I'm gonna just have to settle. This is the weight I'm gonna be. This is the who I am gonna be. I'll be in and off about workouts and all this kind of stuff. I was very, quasi happy of not having to deal with all the extra work that has to come. I was like, yeah, so what? I'm still sexy no matter what. If I'm 300 pounds or 200 pounds. So I was like, I don't know if but no, I wasn't sexy at 300 pounds, to be honestly. So that's when I was like, you know what? No, I don't want to be that 2 years ago. I want to be a 3 years ago. I want to be 30 years ago when I was
Right.
an Adonis. But no, I'm just saying like I wanted to get back to a weight that made more sense for me. I was having a waist
Mhm.
Okay, when you get pants and stuff like that, my pants at the highest rate was like 52 inches.
Mhm.
I'm down to 34 inches now. Does everybody hear what I'm saying? 52 inches to 34 inches.
52 to
That's like
34.
two people. It's like I was a two people person. You
Wow.
know, if you look at it from that perspective, the shirt I'm on right now, when I was rolling right before when Joe and I were doing a bunch of stuff, I was double X and then sometimes triple X. I'm on a medium sized shirt right now. I'm telling you the differences are not only good for you healthy, but it also makes you happy. You feel better, you know you look better. I don't care if nobody likes me or not. I'm so happy that I'm happy about who I am and what I am. So
Right.
I hope that helps you, Joe.
Excellent, man. I appreciate that, man. But Banks, I appreciate you, brother, for taking the time out, sharing your story. Without a question, I know you inspired somebody. You will inspire people just off of your journey and your testimony. And I look forward to see the progress that you can make over the next several weeks, months, years to come, brother. Like I really believe in you, and I think you know what I mean. You're gonna make it happen, man.
Well, there's a couple of goals I'm going to leave you with.
So.
Goals for you and I, and for those who want to join in on it, feel free. But I want Joe to get me in enough athletic to where I can be in a race. I want to race in something. Now,
What kind
I'm
of
not
race?
trying to
What?
race no marathon or no crap like that. I'm talking
Yeah.
about like from here to the door. But I'm saying I want to make sure that I can
Yo,
run and win something, or at least be in the top two or three people
I love
in
it.
a race. So I'm definitely down to work towards that. I do want to say that it's really important to me that we are have some level of consistency. There's a lot of things that you've taught me where I can do myself, but I want to make sure that I'm making sure that the additional things that you continue. One of the things about Joe, if anybody listen, by the way, everyone make sure you get a moment with Joe. Go meet him, do a very first time with him, because he finds out what kind of body you have. He figures out what you might be having to, yeah, and he will make sure that he makes accommodations on whatever issues you might have. I've had um, wounds. I've had all types of things. He knows how to figure those things out so that it doesn't get exasperated or anything like that. So I recommend people because Joe is. I mean, he actually went to school for this stuff, and he actually knows all these type of things. This is a man that knows the stuff for real.
So,
So my goal at the end of the day is, like I said, get the man ready for me to run, but also I want to be in a position where um, the muscle looks, normalized. It looks really good. I want to get to a point where you look at those things where they say how much is your fat level is. I want to figure out what that is because when you're working this hard, a lot of times you still have a little skin leving around, and you're like,
right,
okay, I
right.
locked this extra weight, so you get that little skin wiggling around. And I'm not the kind of guy that goes to get surgery or anything like that. So I want to figure out how to work all that kind of stuff out. So there's always something you can learn from these things. For anybody listening, there's a lot with this, but at the same time, it's a lot of fun. I can tell you right now, first of all, look at my shirt. When I was 300 pounds, you think I was walking around with a fuchsia shirt? Come on, man. It's a it's a fuchsia shirt because I'm slim. I mean, that's why. And all my clothes had to be redone. And I took all my clothes to to all the various locations to give it to people because I know what it's like to be a big man. It's hard to find good stuff. So I always have expensive clothes. So I took all my big beautiful clothes to all the places you can go to Sanitation and all these places to give it to people for free, I hope. So at any rate, um, my parting line is take this very seriously. I gave you the five things. Joe will, I'm sure, will recommend it as something that he can share as well. And I say, talk to Joe. He really is a good guy. He really is. He and I played basketball together back in the day. We had a lot of good times together back in the day, all kind of stuff. So Joe's willing to work with people, even when it's a bit tough. But he's willing to do it. This guy he's in the gym at 5 in the morning,
Yes,
and I
sir.
like that. I like going early. But anyway,
Right.
he's that guy that has been really helpful. And I've met people that he's been training that we've all been around him for several years. Nobody leaves from this particular experience. So I appreciate it, Joe.
Nice, man. Nice, man. So all those that are watching this and you feel like you can relate to Banks, maybe you've tried, other programs and diets and you feel stuck and you keep finding that you lose that motivation along the way. Shoot, you might be stuck right now. I want to help you, right? It's like Banks said, I want to help you. So I'm going to be opening up about 3 or 4 open spots to try and help some individuals that are serious about this, that connect with things that Banks are saying. And I'm going to give you guys a really nice discount on that program just to get you going and motivated on our program that we're doing right now. And I'm sure I know a lot of you guys are thinking, how is this going to be any different than anything else that you've probably ever done, right? But just like Banks, man, we worked at it. We handled challenges. We've handled, custom challenges, right? It wasn't like he just had general. Like he had very specific things that were going on with him, from schedule to physical ailments, that we were able to work through. And I'm sure we'll be able to work through that with you. If you're worried about time, like Banks already said, we in the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? So we got a wide range of the time of the day where we could, work things out. If you're worried about the investment, we offer payment plans. So, what I'm saying? We could break things up and make it a lot easier for you. At the end of the day, if you're looking forward to get a nice kickstart and really transform your health, just like Banks has done, I'd love to invite you, get you going, get you summer ready and ready to transform and change your life. My man of
Wait,
the hour.
let me. I got to end with this. Joe and I both love Joe and I both love the Lakers. But everybody say this: "Let's go Knicks!"
Gotta love New York winning, man. New York basketball is special.
All right, take it easy, man. I had a lot of fun.
We'll talk.